Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier before the break, we were talking about the AFC Championship, and now we're going to dive into the NFC Championship, the 49ers versus the Lions. But first, I wanted to remind you that if you guys like the show and you have a comment that you want to send to us, you can do that at streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. We really appreciate it, and it really helps the show. But let's dive in to this game. Oh.
Oh, I'm gonna let you go on this one. Let me hear what you have to say on this one.
Guys, I was pulling for Detroit. I wasn't even giving up when there was a minute left on the clock in the fourth quarter. I was like, there's still a chance. It's very slim, but there is still a chance. And I was rooting for Detroit the entire time. Oh my gosh. Honestly, what a great game to watch, though. Like, Lions were giving the 49ers hell in the first half. Like,
absolutely.
They were tearing it up. And then I guess, who is 49ers coach? Who's 49ers? Shanahan?
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
Shanahan had to have said something to 49ers during halftime. And then towards the end of the third quarter, they just flip switched. And what was it, 27 points earned?
Yes. I mean, okay, I'm because this is the one I have a lot to say on.
Yeah.
This is that, in like a lion, out like a lamb kind of situation.
Yeah.
I do not think, first off, you have to give credit before I start to pounce here. I'm going to give credit to the 49ers. I'm going to give credit to Shanahan and the game plan they put together. This is a great example of a team not shooting themselves in the foot. Like you were talking about the Ravens and some of their mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
49ers did not make mistakes. This was a blowout. This was not a competitive game. This should have never gotten close.
Mm-hmm.
I blame Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, the coach of the Detroit Lions, single-handedly lost this game. Now, I know that's a lot to say, that you're accusing the coach of blowing a game, but that's exactly what he did. Okay, when you're midway through the third quarter and your team is dominating, your team is controlling the game, this game, you understand, if you're in the third quarter of an NFC Championship game, no one comes back from a 17-point deficit. No one has ever this is the first time anyone has ever come back from a 17-point deficit. But I'm talking about the 49ers are in field goal range, and no one has ever come back from a 17-point deficit. If they're up by 14 and all they have to do is kick an easy field goal. Faith, you could have made that field goal.
I doubt that.
Listen, I almost said I could have made that field goal, but I might would have made the field goal. I would have pulled a hammy and been out for the season, but I would have made that field goal. If you make that field goal, you're up by 17 with a quarter and a half left. Dan Quinn, who stuck his foot in his mouth against the Cowboys, a similar situation where he kept going for it, where he did not have to. Where this is a situation where you're about to go up 17 points. He decides to go for it. They get stopped. So instead of going up by 3 scores, or you need to score 3 times in a quarter and a half to even tie the game or to win. So they don't get it, and then the 49ers march down the field and score. You go from a situation where you should be up by 3 touchdowns, where you're only up by 1 touchdown, just like that, because of that bad decision. That bad decision by itself cost the Detroit Lions their first ever in history appearance in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He single-handedly derailed the entire city of Detroit and that organization's chance to make the Super Bowl. Then, okay, not only that, you go from a two score swing because you had the field goal, been up by 17. It was an easy field goal, to now you're only up by 7. Now you look around and your team that was playing loose, your team that had their ears pinned back and could really go for it instantly. Once that happened, that team got tight. It was all game. It was Jared Goff, Amara St. Brown. Couldn't get Amara. That's a mouthful. Amara St. Brown was just a beast out there. And I just want to look at his numbers here. With St. Brown, I don't have his numbers up in front of me, but man, they kept going to him. It was impressive. But then once the game shifted and the momentum shifted, that's when Deebo Samuels and Christian McCaffrey, that's when they were really able to start to shift the game. The tighter the Lions got, the better McCaffrey and Deebo Samuels got. Also, when you talk about Brock Purdy, and this is a situation where you talk about being a game manager and a game breaker. And Brock Purdy ended up being both. He managed that game plan to perfection. But then game breaker came in, where he didn't do anything spectacular, but what he did was he used his athleticism to run when needed to get critical first downs. He didn't break anything huge or anything, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy played within the system. He used his legs to move the sticks, move the chain, keep the clock running. And then Dan Campbell had another chance to kick a field goal, and he decided to go for it again. And he missed, and they didn't get that one.
Yeah, they missed.
Refresh my memory. Now that's two easy field goals that they missed, which is a 6-point swing. What was that final score, Faith? Do you remember what that final score was?
It was 34-31.
Add 6 to 31. What is that score?
37-34.
Dan Campbell cost the city of Detroit a Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah, 100%. I was fuming. I was fuming watching the second half of this game, because I agree 2 field goals could have been made, but they decided to go for it, and both of those passes were missed.
Yeah, both of the kicks were missed. Yes. No, I know what you mean. Yes.
And then
not missed, but you were right. I'm wrong. Both
dropped.
of the passes were
dropped.
Yes.
I mean, and one of them, clear as I could have caught that ball.
Yeah. You won't kick a field goal, but you'll catch a pass over the middle.
I could have caught that ball. Like, he had it and then he dropped it, and I was so angry. I was violently shaking.
It's a situation though, in those situations where your team has done so well. Your team has done well. Reward them by putting points on the board. Regular season, that's a different game. But when you're in a NFC Championship game, reward your team. If he, just like I said, that first going for it on 4th down, that was a 10-point swing because they went right down the field and scored. And instead of being down 3 scores, they kicked that field goal. Instead of them getting the ball and marching down the field, they got a kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
The way you call the rest of this game is you're down by 17. They become a one-dimensional team where they're only passing the rest of the game. They have a quarter and a half to make up 3 scores. When you know a team is passing, it's a much easier situation here. Then the second one, why not kick the field goal on the second one? It didn't work out. Okay, you had a 10-point swing, but guess what? You kick that extra field goal, you got a tie game here.
Yeah.
What happens? The way they were playing, you did not reward your players for doing their job, which was to jump out on them and take their lunch money. Surprise, they left that lunch money on the table by accident. And the 49ers took that lunch money, smacked them in the head, took their sandwich, and went home. Am I wrong on any of this?
No, you're not wrong. And I wish I should have, like, I feel like I should have streamed myself watching this game because this was me the entire time watching this game and, like, throwing my hands up, and I was like, what is going on? Because up until towards the end of the third quarter, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh yes.
You're going to get both games right.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, wow, never in my life have I never picked for games. And
then you're like, I'm 2-0 in this bad boy.
2 for 2, baby. No.
Yeah. And we've been talking, there's been a lot of coaching changes, and we've been talking about coaching changes and things of that nature. And you see why coaching matters. And, I'm not saying that the Lions should go out and get a new coach or anything like that, but his decisions alone cost a team that did what they're supposed to do, cost that team their first berth into a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I thought just by itself, if nothing changes, if they just kick those 2 field goals,
it could have been a different outcome.
In my opinion, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
So, anything else you want to add on them? Because I really wanted to go in this one because this should not have happened. This is what I call coaching malpractice. This is what I'm calling it, coaching malpractice.
You lose your certificate and you lose your job.
Yes, somebody needs to get punished for this. I mean, I'm not saying fired, but the Detroit Lions worked too hard, performed too well.
They did, yeah.
And I still talk about this. I'm going to touch on the 49ers because, man, the 49ers, once the momentum shifted, 49ers were like, we're putting our foot on their neck, we're stepping on it, and we're going to the Super Bowl. They dropped, metaphor after metaphor. They dropped that car in low gear and punched it, and it was over.
Yeah.
Perfect game. Now, you know what? We'll talk about the matchup tomorrow about how we think it's going to go. Okay. But man, I thought both teams, the coaches, kind of affected it. Harbaugh with his going in and being a very pass-heavy offense. I thought in the second half he would make that adjustment, but he stuck with that game plan where it was just pass heavy. And then Dan Quinn, who had been just going forward consistently throughout the year. I understand going forward during the regular season, but you have to understand the situation that you're in. And this is a chance to change a franchise, to get a franchise who has never been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If you just do the smart decision and take the easy points, you're already up.
Yeah.
You're already up. You're up by 14. Go up by 17.
Yeah.
The game becomes easy for Detroit. That's all I was going to say on it.
Yeah. What a upsetting ending.
Imagine if you were, let's say you're 50, 60 years old. You've been waiting. If you're from Detroit, you're 60 years old, and you're sitting there and you're up and you're like, wow, never in my life have I ever seen my team make it to the Super Bowl. This is it. You got to be feeling it. They were showing people crying. They were grown men crying. I was like, man. And Brock Purdy over there eating their lunch. Eating their lunch. Mm-hmm. You brought the big piece of chicken for lunch and somebody else is eating it.
You know what made the ending of that game so much worse? I was working a double and I had to close a restaurant with the fact that the score was 34-31. And that just made closing a restaurant even worse than it already is. It was,
it was crazy. I'm excited though for the Super Bowl.
Oh, me too.
We'll touch on that. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. Really, yes, it would have been a nice Cinderella story to get Detroit in there, but you have the team of the year, the 49ers, against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty. Mm-hmm. And it is a dynasty. Make sure when you have the worst team, the worst performance of Patrick Mahomes' career, and that means just making it to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Detroit hasn't been there in their life. Patrick Mahomes goes there every year. And man, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it definitely will be. That will be a game to watch. I'm also just excited for the halftime show, but
and I'm going to do a nice little segue. We've been talking about coaching matters. We talked about the Harbaugh game plan on the AFC Championship, the decision by a coach to forgo easy points to go for it. And now, what are we transitioning into?
Who's replacing Harbaugh in Michigan's new
coach? Replacing Jim Harbaugh. Yes, we are.
Yep.
So, all right.
Right, guys. With that, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we will be talking about Michigan's new head coach.
Yes.